What's going on, guys? Welcome to the stream. Mixing it up a little bit today. I'm going to be answering questions as best I can, to the best of my ability. Anything chess related, you can ask, and I'll do my best to answer it. Of course, members, super chats, get the priority, but everyone is welcome to ask. I just might not see all of the other ones. Okay? So, whoever's here first, if you have a question, fire away. What's going on, guys? Hey, Shane. Long time no see. Jonathan, how's it going? How did I get into chess? Good question. So my dad used to have this electronic chess set when I was like 2 years old. He would play against the computer, and it had these red lights that would light up, and I thought it was interesting. And so he used to let me just kind of sit on his lap while he would play. So I learned how to set up the board, and then he started teaching me how to play. And so when I was about 4, I could play a game against him. And then when I was 7, I think, was the first time I actually beat him, and the rest is history. Who's my favorite chess player? I like Tal. I like Tal a lot. A lot of his games were pretty nice, attacking games. So if I had to choose, probably Tal. When's the best time to... Oh, that's a good question. When's the best time to take f7 with the bishop instead of the knight? Good question. Okay, so I just want to talk about this one real quickly here. Most of the time, it's better to take with the knight. All right, so let's just say black, blunders here. Most of the time, it's better to take with the knight because there is, usually there's these pieces that you can attack. The only time I would say I would take with the bishop instead is if you're not going to get a fork. So maybe, I don't know, the queen has already moved. Let's do another example. Maybe you're not going to get a fork. You could argue here it's better to take with the bishop because since there's no fork, it's kind of just a free pawn, and then black has time to do something else. Stockfish says they can play d5, and the game's actually not that bad for black. Whereas if you take with the bishop, they immediately lose castling rights, which is a big deal. So this would be kind of the situation where I would say it's better to take with the bishop. When you can force them to lose castling rights, and you didn't have a nice fork with the knight, that's probably the situation. Probably the situation. Now you have to be careful when you do this, that if the knight gets chased away, you're going to lose your bishop. For example, if you're not paying attention, you play d3, black's going to play h6, you have to move your knight, and now you lose the bishop. So probably what you're going to be doing most of the time you do this is taking, and then going right back. But that's okay. Now you actually have a fork here. So, yeah, hopefully that answered the question. Okay. EXP bar, best way to improve rank when you reach a plateau. Good question. Lots of people probably struggle with that. So what you want to do is go back to your last 20 games, I would say, or maybe 20 losses. It's up to you. 20 games, 20 losses, whatever you want to do. And what I like to do is pull up an Excel spreadsheet. And as I go through the game, I'm looking for those big mistakes or either the big mistakes that happened throughout the game or the final mistake at the very end. Up to you how you want to do it. And you're going to put that in a spreadsheet. Oh, I lost on time this game. Okay, put it in there. Oh, I blundered my queen. Okay, put it in there. Oh, I missed a nice tactic that I could have used to win the game. Oh, whatever it is, right? And you come up with the spreadsheet. You have 20 games in there, and you look at them, and you see, okay, do I notice a pattern? Am I losing every game because I'm running out of time? Okay, then maybe you need to figure out your time management. Am I losing every game because I keep missing tactics? Okay, then you probably need to work on tactics. Am I losing every game because I get in trouble out of the opening and I have no idea what to do? I just get in these bad positions right from the beginning. Okay, maybe you would benefit from learning an opening. So whatever it is, you should be able to identify it when you go through your 20 games. And regardless of what your rating is, regardless of what you struggle with, you'll be able to figure it out if you do that. That's what I would say. All right, let's see. Good question, by the way. Very good question. You ever get anxiety during games? Yes, I do. You kind of just practice, and then also getting good at tactics really helps because it's when you're struggling with the tactics that the anxiety really goes up. So like as you get better and better at tactics, I think it helps the anxiety. But you can also just play longer time control games if that happens. Don't play speed chess all the time, and that'll go away to some extent. But it's kind of just part of chess, especially at a competitive level. I don't think anybody can really totally get away from that unless you just stop playing rated games or something. Oh, if you had to play one opening for the rest of your life, which opening would you play? Wow, that is a loaded question, isn't it? Oh man, one opening for the rest of my life. Hmm. Hmm. I guess there's two ways to look at it. You could look at it from the standpoint of if I'm trying to be a good player, which one would I pick? And then the other one is like if I don't want to get bored and I want to have fun, which one would I pick? Trying to be a good player, I'd probably go with like the King's Indian. It's just one of those openings that you can pretty much play against everything. And so if I'm only playing one, I would say King's Indian. For fun, I don't know, probably some Gambit, like King's Gambit or Danish Gambit or something like that. I don't want to get bored. All right, let's see. What other questions do we have here? Um, 1200. You feel like you're usually behind after the opening. What's a good way to start learning openings? It doesn't feel too much like studies. Well, probably watch videos on YouTube where they talk about them. It kind of does feel like studying it. You can't really get around that if you want to do a good job. But some of the videos, like I have some on my channel, other people have some too, where it sort of shows you like a system, and you just watch it and you can like, take notes and like, okay, I think I understand. Then you go try it and you see how it works out for you. You don't want it to feel like studying. That's what I would do. Just watch a YouTube video. Hmm. Okay. Let's see. Wow. Some questions. Okay. When is a pawn storm too slow and when is it optimal to play? That's a good question. So, yeah. Let's see. Let's think of a good opening here. Let's take like a King's Indian type of thing or perk here. So let's say we have this position and this. I don't know. Okay, so it's like this position. We're like, okay, I want to launch a pawn storm on the king side and attack black's king. So the question that Daniel asked is it too slow or is it a good idea? So there's a couple of things. Number one, you have to remember that usually when you're going to be doing this, if your opponent is smart, they're either going to be counterattacking on the other side of the board or counterattacking in the center. And so you kind of have to judge. Like in this particular case, it doesn't really look like black is quite set up to attack with the pawn storm over here. So I'm not really worried about that. So I'm thinking I have plenty of time to do this. But as they start attacking in the center, so let's just make a move, for example. Let's just say g4, and they start attacking maybe e5. Now I start to have to ask myself the question, okay, do I continue or do I deal with what black is doing here, right? And there's a couple of things. Sometimes you can just push by and sort of try to lock things up. And if you're able to achieve that, it gives you more time to attack. And then the other thing is sometimes you can't. So like in this case, they play c6. It's like, well, I can't just totally ignore that. They're going to just start taking all my pieces, right? They're going to take here and maybe they're going to get a 4. I have to react. So what I like to think about is as long as my center is solid and I have some of my core pieces developed, so like here and I'm castled, I'm okay launching a pawn storm because I know that like worst case, if my opponent's really, really slow and they're like doing all these moves that aren't really doing anything, that's fine. I'm going to keep attacking them. But even if they're quick and they start attacking me like here, I know that I'm going to have options. Like in this case, maybe I'll just take that, right? And then take a free pawn. That's an option. I can see that my position is pretty solid. So to answer your question, I think it has to do with how solid is your center before you start launching the pawn storm. Okay, so if you're not developed, let's take a different example. Maybe, I don't know, you were just kind of wasting some moves here because you don't really know what you're doing. And you move your rook here and, whatever. You like play a4. Okay. Now you're thinking, should I launch a pawn storm on white? I mean, on black's king. The answer is no, because you wasted all these moves. Your center is not very solid. You don't have a lot of pieces developed. Your king is still in the center. I don't have time to go launch a pawn storm. I got to start dealing and try to get my position back together. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, long answer. With Queen's Gambit, is it always bad to accept? Okay. No, you can totally accept. That's what I like to do, actually. Most of the time, I like to accept the Queen's Gambit. So the Queen's Gambit is it's one of those openings where it's not really a true gambit. A lot of gambits, you actually have to give up a pawn and be willing to play the rest of the game without that pawn, right? Queen's Gambit is not that kind of opening because if white really wants to, they can always take back their pawn. But no, it's not bad to take it. It just leads to different types of positions. Generally, the Queen's Gambit accepted is going to lead to probably a little bit more of open types of positions. So, file is open, this diagonal gets open, this diagonal gets a little bit more open. So, it's just different type of thing. Dancing avocado, I need to adjust some things. So to answer the question, no, you can absolutely take. It just depends on what you're more comfortable with. I personally do like to accept it, and the setup that I like to go for is knight f6. I don't know, let's say e6. So they take here. You can go bishop e7. You can castle. You can put your knight on d7. You can play a6, b5. If they let you, if they don't let you, you play b6, and you get the setup. This is what I like to do. Pretty solid. Well, just to illustrate, though, if you try to hold on to the pawn, watch what can happen. So they play e3. They attack you, and you say, no, I'm going to keep the pawn because I got a free pawn. I want to keep it. b5, right? Well, white's going to play a4. Now you're like, okay, I see what they're trying to do. If I move, they're going to take me. And if I go here, they're going to take me and take my rook, right? So what I'm going to do instead, play c6. And you're probably thinking, now if they take me, I'm going to take back, and everything looks good, right? Does anybody know what white plays in this position? I'm sure some of you guys know what to do here, right? What does white play in this position? Yeah, that's right. Queen f3. This is actually a trap, and your rook is actually gone, or you have to lose some piece. Either the rook, the knight, or the bishop. You have to sacrifice one of them. Otherwise, white just comes down here. So it's not a good position. You have to do something like this and play bishop d7. The game goes on, but you just lost a piece for free. So that just illustrates, you can't really hold on to the pawn. So the way I like to think of it is you take it, but just let them take it back when they want to. Develop your pieces, and you're going to be fine. Okay. How do you adapt when your plans fall apart? Couple things. I don't really have a good example. But yeah, that is really loud. I'm sorry, guys. Let me I will see if I can that. I don't know why it's so loud. Hold on. I'm gonna answer the question. I just need to fix this real fast. One moment. One moment. There we go. Let's go way down with the sound volume and see if that sounds okay. Save settings. Okay, I think if I did it correctly, it should be lower. Should be much lower. Sorry about that. Okay. When your plans fall apart. So, number one, don't ever go into a chess game with a plan where you're like, no matter what they do, I'm always going to do this plan. Don't do that, because That's not how chess works, right? You have to be willing to adapt to what your opponent is doing. You have to be flexible. So number one, don't have that mindset. That being said, making plans is good and you should do it in chess. You just have to go into it with the mindset of like, I'm gonna make this plan, but it might change. And that's okay. So what's a good example? Um okay, there's an opening that I like to play against the French where I go knight to c3. And if they play the winner, I'll play queen to d3. And the point behind this opening is that if they take me, I take them with my queen. If they attack me, I come over here. Some people take here, whatever, doesn't really matter. And my plan is that when they castle, I'm trying to go bishop here. I want to threaten checkmate. And I'm going to do it by playing bishop to g5 to attack. Okay, this is my plan. However, if black, what's black going to do? Let's say they go here, and let's say I continue with my plan. If black does something weird, like what's a good? Think of a good example. If they do something that stops my plan, I have to be willing to adapt. Okay, so not a good example. Let's say they go here. Oh, that falls for the tactic. Yeah, and maybe actually this is a good example. So my plan is to checkmate them over here. I would like to undermine this knight and checkmate them. Now, right now, if I do it, they're going to recapture with this knight, and they're still defending. So maybe I'm thinking, all right, how do I get this knight somewhere that I could trade and double trade and get the checkmate, right? Maybe that's my plan. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, trade it, and then get a checkmate, okay? But they play rook to e8. Well, rook to e8 is actually a mistake because I have another sort of threat here as well. And this might be an example of like, okay, since they didn't stop my other threat, I'll change my plan. What's the move? Well, it's kind of a tricky move. Does anybody see the move here for white? Yeah, you guys see it. That's right. Bishop takes h7. Very interesting move here because you have this pin on the knight. So the knight can't actually take you or black loses the queen. And so even though it wasn't quite the plan, it's what we have available, and so this is what we do. We take it with the bishop. So that's not a great example. I just couldn't think of anything on the fly. But the point is, make a plan. That's fine. Like, okay, this could be my plan. But be flexible to where if your opponent does something that doesn't fit, I see what they did, and you change, right? And a lot of it has to do with the tactics. Yeah, Shane says take the knight. If you take the knight, actually this knight just recaptures, and it's the same. It's still defended, but now you don't have the pin. So that's why it doesn't work. Yep. Okay. Good question. Hopefully that was a good answer. Hey, Rob. Have any other hobbies you're passionate about? So I like to play racquetball. I used to play occasionally. I have not played since all of the health stuff happened. So I'm hoping to get back into that one day. I mean, I'm at least I'm like able to walk now, which is good, more than I was before. So I feel like maybe one day soon I can do that. I like racquetball. I like to work out. Like weightlifting mostly. Again, kind of stopped that with all the health stuff, but I'm trying to get back to it. And going to church, hanging out with family. That's pretty much it. Family is a big part of the life right now. We have 3 kids, and they keep us really busy. But yeah, good question, Rob. Okay, what else? For puzzle rating is 1800, but for rapid it's 1200. Yeah, that's really common. There's a lot of people actually that have high puzzle ratings, but then their actual rating is low. Good news is the fact that you have a high puzzle or tactics rating means that you probably just need to fix a few little things, tweak a few little things, and you'll be able to get to the next level pretty quickly. So that's the good news. It's better than if it's the other way around. again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying about like analyze your last 20 games, put them in an Excel spreadsheet, and see, okay, what did I do wrong here? And figure out like why are you losing? If your tactics are that good, you should be winning, right? So why are you not? You got to find that out, and then you got to make changes. So maybe it's you're low on time every game. Okay, you got to learn how to play faster. Maybe it's the openings that get you every time. Okay, maybe you need to learn some openings. Maybe it's whatever it is, right? Try to figure it out. Hey Rick, welcome. Thank you. Oh my. Okay. Aha moment to decide on becoming a chess master. So I don't. I mean, I didn't really have a moment where I was like, I'm going to become a chess master. I just kind of played in tournaments and I just had a lot of fun playing and I tried to win the particular tournament that I was in and my rating just sort of naturally went up until I went to college at UTD and then that's when I got over 2200 and became the master. But yeah, I didn't really it wasn't like a life goal that I had set. It sort of happened as I played. I think there are some people that, they kind of like, I'm going to do this, but I didn't really. I mean, I tried to get higher, but it wasn't like this is my life goal to get 22. That makes sense. How to study chess books? Wow, that's a loaded question. You just read them and pay attention. I mean, I don't really know what to say except like, yeah, just go through it at a pace that you can actually learn. Don't go too fast. Don't go too slow. Like just go through it. If you get stuck, you slow down, figure out what it's saying. Okay. What else? How to punish early pawn pushers. So, okay, early pawn pushers. Usually, here's the thing: if somebody's pushing pawns, like what's a good opening here? I don't. If somebody is just pushing pawns at you, like c5 and then a6 and then b5. If they're doing this, they're not developing their pieces. Okay, so you just want to play good moves and look for opportunities. Now, I don't think I can quite get away with this right now because I don't really have a good follow-up, but I'm looking at sacrificing to attack the king. I'm looking for weaknesses, so it looks like they created a nice square here for my bishop. I'm going to go there. You basically just keep doing what you're doing. Like, keep developing your pieces, and then when they really force the issue, you just look for the best move that you can find, right? So I'm going to go here. I'm going to attack the rook. They have to move their rook now. And I'm going to keep developing my pieces. Maybe e3 or something, and knight's going to come out, the bishop's going to come out. Keep playing and keep doing what you're doing, but eventually they keep throwing pawns at you. I don't know, like h6 and g5. Eventually it's going to come back to hurt them because they haven't developed their pieces, right? And the other thing is don't panic. Like in this position, there's not an immediate tactic, but you don't have to panic. Just keep developing your pieces. You're going to be just fine. Let's say they push here. Don't worry about it. Just move away. You're going to be fine. Let's say they push here. Just wait for the right moment, and eventually something's going to happen. So maybe here I'll play f4 now, and I'm trying to maybe open up this file to attack the king like this. So let's say they take me, they take here, and I don't know what black would do at this point. Let's say they keep pushing. I'm going to come over here. But notice I'm not panicking. I'm just playing good moves. I'm getting my pieces on good squares. I'm reacting to the threats, and eventually you will have something. It's amazing that there's actually not like an immediate way to win the way that I've moved these pawns, but you get the idea, right? Okay. Rick, my lowest chess accuracy is in the middle game. How do you improve middle game play? Yeah, that's a loaded question. That is a loaded question because, of course, every game is different. Probably without even looking at any of your games, you probably need to work on tactics because the middle game is where a lot of tactics start to happen, right? So I don't know what your tactics rating is, but the more you work on tactics, the better your accuracy is going to be in the middle of the game. That's one thing. The other thing is make sure you understand all of the chess principles. So if you haven't seen my video, Top 35 Chess Principles, that's a pretty good one where it kind of summarizes a lot of them. Make sure you understand those. So things like capture towards the center with your pawns, develop your pieces. Bishops are slightly better than knights in most of the cases, except if it's a closed off position. Then knights are actually better. Pay attention to holes on the chessboard. So, like for example, if my opponent plays e5 and then they play, let's say d6, and they play c5, okay, immediately this square jumps out at me as like, oh, I need to focus on the square because they made a hole. No pawns can attack it. That's very, very valuable. Okay, let's do that. Let's control that. They play a5. Oh, this square jumps out at me. I should pay attention to those. I should make use of that. So that's just an example of like a principle, right, that I understand of going after holes that are weaknesses. And so, yeah, understanding all the principles, working on your tactics is really going to help your middle game accuracy. Okay. Thought there was another question. Tim, how does en passant work in 4-player chess? I've actually never done that. I would think. That's a great question. I have no idea, actually. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't think I've ever done it or seen it in a 4-player game. Or if I have, I don't remember. So I'm sorry, I can't help you there. I don't really play 4-player chess often, so I don't know. That's a good question, though. What's the best endgame book? I like Winning Chess Endings by Yasser Sarawin. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but yeah, Yasser. That's a pretty good one. That's what I used, and it got me to where I'm at now. Yeah, no problem, Rick. What cues signal successful Greek gift sacrifice? That's a good question. It's a really good question. So I'll show you guys. Show you guys my opening, my special opening here. So let's go with c5. Let's say b4 takes. Say e6. Say d4. Let's say they take it. Go here. We go here. They go d5. Okay. They castle. d3. And they play, I don't know, d8. So Greek gift sacrifice, if nobody knows, is when you sacrifice your bishop on h7. Okay? And the point is you want to lure the king out so that you can ideally checkmate it or keep attacking it. So the question that EXP bar is asking is, how do you know if it's a good idea to do it or not? So this example right here is kind of the perfect situation. So obviously, number one thing is the knight can't be there. Because if they can take with the knight, it doesn't work. Okay? So that's the first thing. If the knight is gone, you need to also make sure that you can follow it up somehow. Usually it's with your knight and your queen. Okay? So if your knight or your queen are not here, then again, probably isn't going to work. All right? So that's important. No knight here is important. And then the kind of the main follow-up is, does black have an immediate way, after you bring the knight in and they move their king somewhere, do they have an immediate way to deal with your follow-up? Okay, now what's your follow-up? Well, normally when they go back, your follow-up is queen h5 and you just try to checkmate. In this case, we can do it. But I want you to imagine, let me go to setup position here. And I'm going to remove this pawn, okay? And I want you to imagine that now, and I'm actually going to, I'll move this back so it's defending here, okay? I want you to imagine now that black can play bishop to f5. Stops our checkmate. Do we have a good follow-up to win the game? What do you guys think? We have a good follow-up to win the game. People are saying yes, g4. People are saying no. Okay. So the answer is no. We don't really have a good follow-up. Yes, we can play g4, but that's not really a great move. I think black's just going to go back here, and now we have to move our queen. They've totally shut down our threat. Okay, this is the major threat that we have. If the king retreats, we want to try to checkmate on h7. This is the major threat in the Greek gift. So if they can stop it easily, probably don't want to do the Greek gift. If they can't stop it easily, Probably going to work out for you. Okay, so going back to the other position here, where we sacked the bishop and we brought the knight in this case, it totally works for us, right? Because there's no way for black to deal with this. You look around, there's just no moves that stop the checkmate. Okay? I think the rook was here, actually, initially. So most likely black's going to actually have to come out, and this is usually fine. Sometimes they can survive if Stockfish says, there's a crazy way, but most of the time this is great. You play queen g4, you line up, you're threatening this kind of stuff. You can push your pawn into more. I mean, there's lots of ways, and usually it leads to checkmate. So to answer the question, can they stop the checkmate on h7? And if they can, you don't want to do it. If they can't, probably going to work for you. Hopefully that answers the question. Okay. Anthony, what's the highest ELO opponent you've ever defeated on your primary account? Ooh, that's a good question. I don't even know the answer to that. Let's see. Man, it's been a while. It's been a while. I want to say maybe like a 2700 something in like Blitz or Bullet. I've probably beaten. I don't have like a specific game. Unfortunately, my long-term memory is not that great, but I think 2700 is probably about the limit. I think maybe it was only a couple times. 2600s, I know I've beaten, quite a few times before. Because I got my bullet rating up to like 25 something. So to get up to 25 something, you kind of have to beat some of those 2600s from time to time. But yeah, about 2700 would be the highest that I've defeated. Okay, Matthew, do you have tips for opposite side castling? So, let's see. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. Opposite side castling, the way that I like to think about it is two things. Number one, if you like, I'm going to keep using this as an example because I think it makes the most sense here. If you like to play games that are kind of wild, where you get to attack your opponent's king, but they might also attack your king, then I would say go for it. Do opposite side castling. That's what you're going to get. You can throw your pawns forward. You don't have to worry about your king being over there. And you can attack. Black can do the same thing. They can attack you. If you like that, go for it. The other thing that I like to think about is anything happening in the game on the D file where the rook would be useful. Now, in this position, the answer is not really. Maybe at some point this will open up. But there are some games where the D file is open, and putting a rook there is really beneficial. So if you think about it, castling queenside, you actually get the rook there right away, and you save yourself a move. Instead of castle this way, and then you have to bring the rook from here over to here. It takes 2 moves, whereas if you castle, it just takes 1 move. So that's something that I definitely do think about. And if I can accomplish 2 things at once, a lot of times I'm going to lean towards castling queenside. Same thing can be said about castling kingside if the F file is open. So if you play like a king's gambit, castling kingside, you really like to get that rook there without wasting it, having to waste a move, essentially. So that's kind of something that I think about when I'm trying to decide which way to castle. And specifically regarding opposite side castling, if you like to attack your opponent's king and you're set up to do that, by all means, go ahead. If you like more of a safe, slow, calmer game, then maybe don't castle opposite side. Good question. All right. Andrew, what's your favorite part about operating Chess Vibes and interacting with us? What's the most challenging part? Any future plans for Chess Vibes? Wow. My favorite part. I mean, I kind of like all of it. I like teaching, I guess. I like explaining stuff and answering questions. I didn't realize I was going to like that so much until I started the channel. And then I'm like, I really do like just teaching people stuff. So that's probably the favorite part. The most challenging part, probably just balancing everything that's going on with life right now. So making time to do this, health stuff, family stuff, keeps me busy. So that's probably the most challenging. And future plans. Let's see. Mostly more of the same. I have a few things in mind, but yeah, well, so I'll go ahead and say one thing I've started doing is taking private students, which I haven't done in a while. So if you've asked me in the past and I said no, you can try reaching out. You can email me and let me know, and I might be accepting. I mean, I am accepting new students. I'm not accepting everybody, but you can email me and we'll talk. But yeah, no, I mean, just more of the same stuff for right now. Trying to include my wife a little bit here and there too. So she's, as you've seen, been in some videos. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The last couple months, I've just been like trying to survive the health stuff, honestly. So we'll see what happens when I get kind of back to 100%. Good question though, Andrew. All right. I'm gonna answer like 3 more questions. 3 more short questions. How about that? I'm gonna go have lunch. I think my family just got home. Speaking of family, so thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. Thanks a lot. 1800 chess intermediate. No, 1800 is like advanced. 1800 is advanced. I think most people, once you hit 1,000, the graph really starts to taper down, and by the time you hit 1,500, you're pretty much better than most other players. Okay, yeah, let's do 2 more questions. I gotta go. How do top players find engine moves? Well, they're just really, really, really good at calculating, and they're really, really good at tactics. And so if you spot the tactics and you spot the reason behind, what's going on in the position, they can find the top moves. You got to draw in your first over-the-board match versus a 1,500. Nice. 83 accuracy and rapid good. Yes, 83 is good. The only thing about accuracy that you have to understand is it fluctuates widely based on the type of game that you're playing. Okay, so if you're playing a game where the position's very closed off, there's not a lot of good moves or bad moves, just a few things that make sense, you're going to be able to get a higher accuracy than if you play like the King's Gambit and everything is crazy, you don't know what's happening. It's going to be a much lower accuracy. That's pretty much true for almost anyone. So yes, 83 is generally good, but just know that like you might play a really good game in the King's Gambit and have an accuracy of like 70, and that still might be a great game, right? There's other games I've played accuracy of 100, and it was like a short game that didn't really have too much that I had to think about because my opponent just blundered their queen and then blundered checkmate. I had 100 accuracy. That mean I played a great game? Not exactly, right? But yeah, hopefully that answers the question, and congrats on the draw. That's pretty good in your first over-the-board match. Tim says I beat a 2,900 in April, on April 22nd, 2021. Wow. Okay. I did not know that. Thank you, Tim, for finding that. 2,900. Man, I don't even remember that. I really don't remember that. That's crazy. Well, there you go. Beating a 2,900. Did not know. Video on the Polish. Yes. Hopefully at some point. I haven't sat down and actually looked into it that much yet, but yes, it's on the list of things I want to do. All right, cool. I did not know that. All right, guys. I am going to go have lunch and see if family needs anything. Thank you, guys. And yeah, I just wanted to do something different today and thought I would just answer some questions. So maybe we'll do this again if it was helpful, or if you just prefer like the rating climb. Let me know. But yeah. All right. Stay sharp, guys. Play smart. Take care. See you next time. See you, Rob. Thanks for being here.